So in this series, we're gonna talk about the total cost breakdown, how to build 8 townhouses, and how to go from A to Z on building brand new construction. But in this video, we're gonna talk about how to actually find a general contractor. This is the question that Chris and I will get all the time. The most common question when it comes down to either rehabbing a house or building new construction.
Yep.
How do you find a good contractor that's reliable, that's not gonna get over on you?
Yeah.
So, we're gonna actually have 6 points we're gonna talk about on how to actually find the ideal contractor.
First of all, make sure you know your project. I get asked a lot if I'll work for somebody and build a project, and half the time they don't even really understand or know yet what their project is.
Right.
So you've got to know something about your project. Is it single family? Is it multifamily? Is it a bathroom remodel? What are you building? And make sure you know what it is.
Because here's the thing, not every general contractor can specialize doing everything.
Right.
If this right here is an 8-unit townhouse and I go out there and find a contractor that only specializes rehabbing kitchen, he might say, yeah, I can do this, but he got no experience, you're already about to fail.
Yes.
Or if this right here is a big giant 32-unit micro apartments and a guy only built townhouses, he might never know how to build a 31-unit micro apartment.
Yeah.
It's a big deal, right?
Yeah. And knowing your project is not as simple as just knowing how many units it is, or single family, multifamily. You want to be able to answer some questions too. So know some of your specifications. What kind of cabinets you might want, what kind of plumbing you might want. Do a little bit of research. Be prepared to answer some of these questions, because you're not going to be able to get good bids from anybody without having some specifications figured out.
All right, number 2, how to find general contractor.
So you're going to want to get references.
Yes,
References
100%,
are important.
100%.
And one of the key things I think a lot of people miss in references, get the references from somebody that has actually worked with them.
Yes.
Not just heard about them.
That's right.
If they've worked with them, they know how they work, they know what they did, what they didn't do, how their craftsmanship is. They knew a lot more about them if they've actually worked with them.
And how responsible they are.
Right.
Right? Now, if they work with them and they don't work with them no more, there's probably a reason why also you want to check with them.
Right, right.
Because if they're good, they still be working with them.
Yeah, a bad reference is just as good as a good reference, because it can help you weed out the ones you don't want to work with.
What do you think about seeing people review online? How safe is that?
Yeah, you do want to check your online reviews.
Yes.
You know, you're not always going to get the best review sometimes, but you're going to get a good general picture, especially if there's a lot of reviews. You're going to get a flavor of whether or not that contractor's good or bad.
Yeah.
There's also lots of other online resources as well. You can use Angie's List and other contractor websites to get names.
But bottom line, you got to get a referral from someone that's already using the person. Even if that person is still using them today, that's even the best.
Right. And then also, you want to ask that contractor for references.
Yes.
So have them provide some references, and make sure you talk to those references in very specific detail and ask them how they were to work with.
Number 3, how to find a general contractor.
So this one's pretty easy.
Yeah.
But you want to look for your local builders association. Around here we have a Master Builders Association of King and Snohomish County. You can go to their website, you can look at their directory, you can find contractors that specialize in the work that you're looking for.
Again, don't go hire a general contractor that specializes in remodeling luxury home and you want them to build yourself a brand new construction that is basically called, I'll say, mid-price point. You gotta know what you're designing, we talked about earlier, and you gotta find the right contractor when you go looking for them, okay?
Yeah. And part of this also is checking to see if they're licensed and insured as well. So depending on where you're at, what state you're in, you might have different licensing requirements, but you want to make sure they're licensed for the work you're wanting to do and carry insurance.
Why is that important?
If something goes wrong on site, you want to make sure that they have insurance in place that can handle anything that happens, and you want to be named additionally insured on their policy so you know that you're protected as well.
All right, number 4, what is it, Mr. Chris?
You want to make sure that you interview your potential contractors, and if you can, also visit one of their job sites.
Yeah, this is why it's important. This is a site that Chris and I built. If I was interviewing Chris right here, I want to go take a look at his site, and I want to look at the design, how he did it. I want to look at the color, how he did it. I want to look at basically the detail on the windows and the siding. And if possible, I want to go inside and see the finishing work that he did so I can really see the perfection. What else would you look at?
Yeah, you can tell a lot by the craftsmanship that you see. And most people can tell whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
You also want to know, while you're interviewing and interacting with them, you want to pay attention to how compatible you are, how they communicate, and you want to talk to them about how they handle changes and issues as they come up in a job site, because there's always going to be an issue, a change, or a problem that comes up in construction, and you want to know how they handle those.
Yeah, and you know, when you gotta look at the building, right, when you're talking about their own past project, look at all the surrounding around the area. Sometimes someone can build a decent building, but then they leave everything else alone, like the landscaping, right, the pavers. You see how these are? These are nicely paved, put down. Sometimes people, right, they go, oh yeah, Chris, build me a nice building, and then they go cheap on this. How does the builder respond to that kind of stuff? Because I want a builder to make sure if they're gonna build something, I want everything to be done nicely from A to Z.
Yeah, I think it's important to interview and talk to more than one. So you want to probably do 2 or 3, and you want to see how their professionalism is and how responsive they are. If they don't get back to you quickly or they don't show any interest in working with you, move on.
All right, number 5, let's talk about the 3 C's of how to find a contractor.
Yeah, so this is going to be communication, compatibility, and contracts. Communication, it might sound obvious, but everybody has a certain way of communicating,
That's right.
and you're going to get a feel for whether or not that person communicates in your style or not.
Right.
Can you work with that person throughout the duration of a project? This project, for example, is going to go on for 18 months or so, and you got to make sure that you can communicate in a way that works for both of you.
Now, compatibility, super important. For me, I'm an easy kind of going guy. When I go find a contractor, I want that person to be basically easygoing, but I also want that person to take charge and tell me what I need to know, what to do. So example for this right here, you know, Chris, he handled everything, right? He understands how to do this, but he's also easygoing kind of guy. He's in charge. What else do you want to talk about compatibility?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Compatibility. There's some people that are doers, right? And you got to make sure there is a doer in the relationship.
Right.
You can't both be doers, but you also cannot not be doers.
Right.
So you want to make sure that that compatibility is there. When somebody asks you to get something done, you want to know that that's going to get handled.
Because some contractors, they don't do a lot of stuff. They have their second or third command people doing it, and then sometimes, a lot of times, they don't ever get done. Let's talk about contract, which is probably the most biggest thing.
Yeah, now contracts, you know, we're getting into legal, you know, contract and a relationship with somebody. So you want to make sure that that contract is written in a way that works for both of you.
Yeah.
There can be a lot of one-sided contracts out there, and it'll be totally advantageous for the contractor, and you'll be screwed.
And the key thing, folks, no matter who you're doing business with, friends, family, or people you don't know, put everything in contract and get it in writing. What's in a contract?
So the contract's gonna include things like the scope of the project, the costs, the timeline or schedule. It also should include something about disputes and how an issue is going to be handled if there is a dispute and you're not in agreement with your contractor. You want to know up front, how are we going to handle that?
All right, so how does a contractor get paid when they do a project? Is it 50% up front, 50% at the end? How does it work, especially on a new construction?
Yeah, well, you're going to want this outlined in the contract. And on a big job like this, that's going to span many months, we're going to probably get paid on the progress we make every month. So percentage completion, we might make 10 or 15 or 20% progress on the month, and then that will get submitted to the lender. The lender will have an inspector come out, he'll verify the project progress, and then you can fund it.
Right. Now, does the people actually pay your fee out of pocket, or is it part of the construction loan when they do a project like this?
Most people are going to have a construction loan on a project this big, and then you're going to get paid from the construction loan.
Right. And on a smaller project, you guys, sometimes people pay the contractor basically out of their own pocket. And number 6, the importance of long-term relationship.
One thing you want to consider is the long-term compatibility and relationship that you might have with this. If you're an investor and you want to start getting into building and developing long-term, you want to make sure that that future relationship is going to be good and long-lasting.
For me, you guys, when I started, building new construction, I had a builder. His name was Tom, and I didn't check all the reference, all the stuff that Chris and I talk about. I didn't check, and I actually used it because I listened to one person, and he would build some new construction, and he did such a shitty job. And I was like, wow, I know what a shitty contractor looked like now for sure. I met Chris at a site one day. He was doing someone else's project. And after I got to see what a shitty contract looked like, I got to see how Chris and those guys work, and I got to see how detailed he is, how good he communicate, how he put everything in writing, how he's very punctual on the timeline, especially when you do a big project, how good they stay on track. And at the end of the day, you guys, I was like, I like this guy. So him and I became partners. He do some project for me while I have my own project. We do projects together. And today we've been doing business for how long now?
Oh man, it's been 10, 11 years, I think.
10 years. And why is it important to have a long term? Because once I got to know Chris, how he does business, how Chris likes to know how I do business, what we like as a design, what we like as finishing, when we know we build something for sale, when we build something for, to keep us rental, we understand all that. And so then we don't have to actually keep reinventing the wheel. We just cut and paste over and over and over.
Right.
This is why it's so important to find the right builder or the contractor so you guys can do long-term relationship so that you can do more deal in the future. You don't have to think about finding the contract over and over. You just have to go find a new deal.
Yeah, long-term compatibility and relationship, I think, also shows that somebody is gonna care about your project and care about working with you after this first one is done.
That's right.
If they only care about one and done, they're not gonna care too much about you or the costs or taking care of the project the way they should.
That's right. So you guys, that is 6 ways on how to find the ideal general contractor. If y'all like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any question about what we talked about or any other topic about new construction that Chris and I can answer for you, make sure you got comment in below. Until then, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, subscribe for us to hit that 1 million subscriber. Until then, we will see you guys on the next video. Peace.